The M4 Sherman Jumbo is one of the key new kits in the Bulge American releases for Flames of War. Officially the M4A3E2 assault tank, the Jumbo was an up-armoured Sherman with up to 1.5 inches of added armour and a new turret. Once again we have to thank the Restless Kaiser and Johnny B from Yodeling for Advantage for supplying this review kit. Thanks guys! This is UBX-92, the M4 Jumbo Sherman Tank Platoon set for US forces in Flames of War. The kit is a brand new plastic vehicle for the Bulge American wave of late war releases. More than any other Allied nation other than the Soviet Union, the British were convinced of the need for a more heavily armoured tank for the assault role. While the development of purpose-built heavier tanks like the T-14, T-23 and even the heavy tank M6 dragged on, the British proposed thicker armour castings for the M4A1 hull as a stopgap. This never eventuated, but in late 1943, under pressure from D-Day planners, the US Ordnance Department added weights to an M4A3 hull to test if an 82,000-pound tank was feasible. Testing indicated the M4A3's more powerful Ford V8 engine could handle the extra weight. There was additional strain on the suspension, but the new design was approved for limited operations and type standardised as the M4A3E2. The new Jumbo Sherman had a number of significant changes to the basic Sherman design. 1.5-inch armour plates were welded over the standard M4A3 hull front and sides. The front plate had a keyhole cutout for the hull machine gun ball mount. The transmission cover casting was also modified to over 5 inches at its thickest point. This modification alone added nearly 1.5 tons to the vehicle's weight. But probably the most noticeable change was the new turret. While a 75mm gun was favoured for infantry support, the turret was a new thickened casting broadly based on the T-23 design. The thinner top armour plate was welded onto the casting. The turret had a standard 2-inch thick 76mm pattern mantlet that had an additional 5 inches of armour plate welded on. The added armour gave the mantlet a very angular shape that's useful for recognition. Flotation over soft ground was already an issue for standard Shermans, so the heavier Jumbo was permanently operated with duckbill track end connectors. These metal pieces replaced the standard end connectors that secured the track links together. The effect was a wider track and slightly reduced ground pressure that helped the heavy tank not sink into the mud. In all, 254 Sherman Jumbos were built. They were shipped to the ETO in September 1944, reaching units of the 1st, 3rd and 9th US Armies in October. The intent was the Jumbos would be deployed to support infantry assaults on fortified positions. In practice, Jumbos were widely used as point tanks for armoured columns. They could survive hits from German tanks and guns that would destroy a standard Sherman. Despite their heavy armour, Jumbos weren't invulnerable. Many were lost to enemy fire, and those disabled by mines were often fired at by the enemy until they burned to prevent recovery. Some units started up-arming Jumbos with 76mm guns from damaged Shermans, and this modification was later approved as a field modification. A number of Jumbos were also fitted with sandbag or concrete armour, further straining the overloaded engine and transmission. Jumbos gave good service in the drive through Germany in the closing stages of the war in Europe. General Eisenhower even requested production be restarted. But up-armoured M4A3s and the new M26 Pershing tanks were proving capable of filling the assault role, eliminating the need for a specialist tank. If we look at the back of the box, we can see 2 images of the completed kit and an exploded assembly diagram. Parts count is low and the assembly looks pretty straightforward. The kit has the 75mm and 76mm gun options, as well as enough parts to build both turrets. Battlefront didn't have to do that, so extra credit to them for going the extra mile, or 1.6 kilometres. This box set contains parts for 4 tanks and a decal sheet. There's also a sprue of hard plastic tank commander figures, but no unit cards are supplied. To get the Jumbo unit cards, you need to buy the Bulge American unit card pack as a separate product. Let's look at the plastic. The Jumbo comes on 2 sprues of olive green plastic. Parts count is low and this looks like an easy kit to build. The parts are clean and well moulded, with a sharpness and level of detail we've come to expect from a modern Battlefront plastic kit. The first sprue has the turret parts, upper hull, guns and the one-piece transmission cover. The upper hull piece has lots of nice, strongly moulded engine deck and grille detail. Being a late M4, there are the characteristic large hatches for the driver and hull machine gunner. In a departure from usual Battlefront late Sherman engineering, the front mantlet is moulded integral with the hull. It's not a separate piece. The mantlet also includes the gun crutch and the hull machine gun. This will simplify assembly. Here are the upper and lower turret parts. These are identical. You can see while this turret is similar to the T-23 design, the casting is in fact unique. The line for the welded-in top plate can be clearly seen here. The loader's hatch is closed, but there is provision for an open or closed commander's hatch. In another new engineering twist, the 75mm and 76mm guns are moulded onto their mantlets as a single piece. No more wondering if the gun barrel is glued in straight with the jumbo. There are 2 supplied 50 cals, one for each turret, or an air and a spare if you're a bit klutzy with the clippers. Then there's 2 turret pegs and a spare road wheel for stowage. And finally the one-piece cast transmission cover. The second sprue has the one-piece track parts, lower hull, hatches and stowage. You can see the lower hull piece is keyed so the tracks will only fit in one way. Tracks are one-piece parts. The track pattern is steel chevron. This is well detailed on the upper track run, becoming a bit simplified underneath where it won't be visible. Perfectly acceptable for a wargaming kit. The special feature of these tracks are the extended end connectors to make the existing Sherman track wider. This helped with flotation on soft ground. They were fitted to many standard late war Shermans as well, but were a permanent feature on jumbo tracks. Including them in this kit is a really nice touch, and they look great. There are 2 open commander's hatches and 2 closed ones. This allows you to build 2 full turrets, one with the 75mm gun and one with the 76. Again, including enough of these parts isn't something Battlefront had to do, so well done. The rest of the parts here are stowage, a box, a jerry can and some spare track links. So that's the parts for the 15mm M4 Sherman Jumbo kit for Flames of War. It's a low parts count wargaming kit, but with some great engineering. It builds up into a nice detailed kit, including enough parts to build both a 75 and 76mm gun turret is nice. The unique jumbo turret is faithfully rendered and the extended end connectors on the tracks are a nice touch. The integrated gun and mantlet avoids needing to key a joint here. It should be more robust for the table. I was maybe just a little concerned about how much the mantlets of these parts protrude from the sprue, worried about damage in the closely packed Battlefront boxes. But I have 2 of these and there's no issue I can see. Battlefront consistently design great wargaming kits and their engineering just keeps getting better. People might recall the issues I noted with the new Chaffee kit, but those aren't mould design or engineering issues. Those were injection pressure and quality control problems. Thankfully no sign of those on the jumbo kits. So we have the kit. How's the jumbo going to work on the table? This is the unit card for the standard M4 Jumbo. It is listed as a tank unit. That's the only special rule here. Motivation is a confident 4+, with a last stand and remount of 3+. Looks like the crews like all that extra armour. The crews are a trained 4+, and they are aggressive hit on a 3+. That's going to make them easy to hit, but the armour's going to make them harder to kill. Veteran Jumbo units are rated as careful, hit on a 4+, but they lose the improved Blood and Guts last stand rating. These are the veteran survivors who want to make it to the end of the war. Front armour is a whopping 11, with 8 on the sides and rear. Top is 1. That's a lot of extra armour above a standard Sherman. Despite the added weight, the tactical move is still 10 inches or 25 centimetres. However, the dash speeds are all a few inches less than a standard Sherman tank. And the cross is a 4+. If you take these across difficult terrain, you're going to have to be very lucky not to get stuck. The 75mm and 76mm guns are the same as normal Shermans. They both have the stabiliser special rule. This gives the Jumbo a +1 to hit penalty if it moved during its movement step. The 75mm gun gets smoke, while the 76mm gun gets no HE, as well as increased range and an AT of 12. The choice here is, do you want to be able to blind the enemy, or are you expecting the jumbo to take an active role in killing enemy armour? If we check out the Bulge American forces, jumbos are only available in Sherman tank companies. By late war, US Sherman companies are a mixed bag of 75mm and 76mm Shermans. You can replace a late 75mm Sherman with a 75mm jumbo for +2 points, or with a 76mm jumbo for 3 points. You can only take one jumbo per Sherman tank platoon. So that's the M4 Sherman Jumbo for American forces in Flames of War. It's just a simple little kit, but the parts engineering is well thought out. Battlefronts seem to improve with each kit they produce. Having the parts for 2 turrets is nice. They didn't have to do that. I was maybe a bit concerned about the combined gun and mantlet, mainly with the chance of parts damage in packaging, but all of mine seem fine. You only get a limited number of jumbos in a platoon. That reflects how they were used to head tank columns in US units in 1945. They were likely to survive a shot that would kill a standard Sherman. I'm guessing the mistaken target rule will be your friend here, bouncing gun or Panzerfaust hits onto the jumbo's thicker hide. If you're running late war US Shermans, these might be worth including. Thanks go out again to Modelling for Advantage for supplying this kit for review. We regularly collaborate on live streams, and the Restless Kaiser and Johnny B do Flames of War and Team Yankee battle reports. If you haven't seen their content, check out their channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.